Today on our hike, we're going to look for signs of weathering or erosion. So remember, weathering is where pieces of rock or sediment breaks off of something. And erosion is the movement of those particles. So when that sediment or sand or rock is now moved. So let's see what we notice. As we look along the sides of our Brandywine Creek, we can see a lot of those tree roots. So that soil has been kind of weathered, broken apart, and has been eroded down. Ooh, look, we have a visitor on the path. It's staring us down. See the deer? Has good camouflage right now, it blends in. Usually when you see one deer, you see more. I wonder if there's more deer around. And this guy really is just watching us. I wonder if he's happy to see us. Hey, he's wagging his tail. I think he is happy to see us. He probably misses all of you kids. Here's some more. Look at their nice white tails. That helps you to see them a little bit easier. Oh look, there's even more! Man, how many deer do you see? Did anybody count? It's a lot of deer. Any more hiding? Oh, I see a little bit more movement. Oh, I see them starting to cross. Here they go. See how many you can count. So cool. Ooh, so the deer ran off over here. I'm gonna kind of scan my phone to take a video, and I want to see if you can count how many deer you can find. Kind of like a little game. They're hiding. Such good camouflage. So far I've seen 2. Let's look at another spot. Oh, I see some in the back. Look for some little bits of movement. Ooh, I saw 7 deer while I was scanning through. How many did you count? Alright, let's get back to looking for signs of erosion. So here we are at the creek again, and you can see that the sides are starting to kind of cave in a little bit. Now we don't want the sides of our creek to completely cave in, because now we're going to have a lot of dirt and rocks and sediments in our water that we use for drinking water. So what are some things we can do to help prevent erosion from happening? Think back to what we learned this week. So as I'm just walking through Blandford, I noticed that sometimes along the path, there are logs that are kind of marking the path. So what's the point of that? Is that just so kids can walk on it and try to balance on the log? Maybe. But I think it's also to help prevent erosion from happening. Those logs will stop the movement of dirt and rocks so that it doesn't take over the path. This part of Blandford by that red barn has a lot of these long logs that are kind of placed down this little slope. And the purpose of that is to prevent erosion from falling on our trail. So they have all those different logs at different distances to help prevent erosion from happening. Hey, it looks like this tree has a face. It's got a giant smile.
Hi there, my name's Mr. Tree.
I see some interesting tracks here. Anybody know what these are? Yeah, these are deer tracks. Do you think deer ever help to erode the hills in Blandford? Do Do you think deer follow all the trails like we do? No, deer go off the trails. So when they're going down a hill or a slope, they sometimes will knock down some soil or sediments and rocks, and it might cause some erosion to happen.
Usually in the wintertime, we have a barred owl that likes to live in this tree right behind me. So sometimes in the winter, we can look up and we can see the owl. Other times we see what's called an owl pellet on the ground. An owl pellet is when an owl eats a mouse or something like that, it then spits up all the hair from that animal and the bones. And sometimes we can find them right underneath these trees. And that's a little clue that an owl was living up in this tree. So I'm gonna film over there and see if we can see the owl up in the tree.
This is what an owl pellet looks like. So all of that is the fur from the animal and the bones. So usually way up high in this tree, you can see the shape of the owl. I'm looking up, but I don't see it today. Must be at a new spot. Sometimes in the spring, this owl appears in our nest boxes, the one that we saw earlier with all the leaves. So we didn't see an owl, but if we look right underneath this tree, I see an owl pellet! So it looks like some animal kind of ripped this owl pellet apart, but you see that big bone right there? These are all the bones of whatever that owl ate. So maybe it was from a mouse? Yeah, look, you can see all the bones of that. That is so cool. Sometimes you can even see the skull, the head bone of that animal. So cool, I can't believe we found this. Alright, so I'm still right by the tree where we found the owl pellet. I'm looking around a little bit more, and look, I see a lot of feathers on the ground. Now, birds preen when they clean their feathers, and sometimes feathers come out. But this isn't just one or two feathers. These are a lot of feathers. Why do you think there'd be all these feathers on the ground? I'm wondering if hawk found this bird and had a nice tasty meal. Wow, yeah, this bird definitely was eaten. Look down here. These are some down feathers that would be very close to the bird's body. So those don't come off when they're preening. So somebody had a nice tasty meal. So right here, this is right before you get to the farm. So if we look at this area right here, we see that there's some plants. They're all dead now because it's fall. But if we kind of walk along this path, we notice there's a line of rocks. Why would there be a line of rocks here? We keep walking, we see more rocks along the side. And hey, look, here's another row of rocks. Someone just throw a lot of rocks here, or is there a purpose? Hey, here's another row of rocks. As we keep moving, we find another section of rocks. And if we go a little bit farther, we're going to see something else. Ooh, you see, this is kind of fallen over, but this was kind of a piece of netting or some type of fencing. That black fencing has fallen, and where are we at now? Our Brandywine Creek. So this is the little bridge that you take that will take you to the farm right over our creek. So what is the purpose of this spot? Why is it like this? Well, this is a bioswale that Blandford helped one of our groups of 5th graders build a few years ago. So a bioswale is an area where the ground is kind of slanted. It kind of goes downhill a little bit. And so if there's a big rainstorm, there's going to be a lot of water that will just kind of be sitting there in our roads. So instead, this is like a little drainage area. So the water will flow down this little hill. So what is the point of all the rocks and all these plants that used to be here? Well, the water that we have can be polluted. There can be lots of dirt and trash in it. So as the water flows down this slanted or indented area here, it passes over the rocks and the plants. And plants and rocks are really good at catching all the parts that we don't really want in our drinking water. So the dirt or the trash, it helps to stop that, and it kind of cleans the water as the water is flowing through this area. And I think that was the purpose of this netting. The netting was supposed to stop some of the bigger things we didn't want in our water, because eventually it will land down here in our Brandywine Creek, which, as we've learned, that's where we get some of our drinking water from. So we don't want to be drinking gross, polluted things. So a bioswale is a great way to also help prevent erosion. So it kind of directs the water to go down this area that's kind of on a hill, a little bit of a slope, and it also helps with those plants. Now those plants can suck up the water that will help them to grow. So instead of having all that water that's kind of flooded the road just kind of rush into other people's grasses and cause dirt and pieces of grasses to be moved around, instead they have this bioswale that directs the flow of that water. Also helps to provide water to these plants, and it helps to clean the water before it hits our Brandywine Creek. Hope you enjoyed our hike. We had some great discoveries today.